Begin the Gemara today on the bottom of Daf Ches Samud Beis, where it says Amalei Rav Ada Bar Masna. So we're in the middle of a sugya. This is the sugya of Palginon Dibura. The discussion of the Gemara was an Eved comes from Chutz La'aretz and he brings with him a star that says in it one line: Kol nochosai knuyin lach. His master wrote to him, all of my possessions are given to you, which basically means that he's receiving all the possessions of his master, but first and foremost, including himself. He can't acquire anything from his master if he's not freed. So he's being freed here, and he's also acquiring all of the possessions of his master. So Abaye says about this, wait a minute, this star is not verified. In order to verify the star, there's going to be two different halachas here. As far as this star being a document to free him, so for that, he's trusted to come and testify and say, B'fanei nichtav, b'fanei nechtam, it was signed, it was written and signed in front of me. Just like with the get of an Isha, she's believed to testify about her own get. By the star of an Evet for his own freedom, he's also believed. But as far as the money, possessions that there is in this star that is being granted to him, for that, he has to find two Eidim to verify the star. So Abaye says, when it comes to this star, because it's all in one line, so we can't split this. It's one story, it's one line. Either he's going to get his own freedom and all the money in the star, or he's not going to get anything. In other words, either we're going to trust him before any Eidim come. If we trust him regarding his own freedom, he gets all the money as well. If we can't trust him because we have to look at the money here, so then he can't be free either. Because it's one line, it's one story, you can't split this star as if it would be two different shtaris. It's one star. Rava comes and introduces a concept called Palginon Dibura. Palginon Dibura means we split the star as if it's two different shtaris here. It's two different stories. On one hand, the star is coming to free him. On the other hand, the star is coming to give him all the money of his master. As far as he himself is concerned, he's believed. As far as the money that the star is saying that his master is giving him, he's not trusted. And then he doesn't get a penny. So we split the star into two. So here, the Gemara is going to ask on Rava's opinion. So Rav Ada Bar Masna tells Rava, Keman, according to who are you saying your opinion? Rab Shimon. What you say goes according to Rab Shimon. The Amar Palginon Dibura. Rab Shimon is the one that says that a similar thing where you have one star and you can split this one star as if it would be two different stars. Where do we see Rab Shimon said this? The Tnan, we learned in the Mishnah as follows: HaKaisiv kol nechosov la'avdai. A person writes in a document that he's giving all of his possessions to his slave. So Yatza ben Chayrin. So now the slave has to himself go free. So we're talking over here about the same case that we said before. A person writes into the document, I'm giving you all of my possessions, which then means that he himself is being freed, including the fact that he gets all of his nechasim. What if in this star that his master wrote to the slave, he leaves out a tiny piece of karka. He says that there's one karka, that one piece of land that he wants to keep for himself. So then, lo yatza ben chayrin. Then the slave will not go free. What's the reason for this? If he left out one piece of karka, so why don't we just say that piece of karka, that piece of land is left out, but otherwise he gets everything else and he goes free. So Rashi here explains that the reason is because the master never clearly wrote in the star that he's freeing the slave. It's a very unusual way to write to your slave that you're freeing him without ever specifying it in the star. Usually, if you want to free a slave, you write to him that you are free. Or even if you want to free him and give him all the money, so you write both. You write, like the Gemara brought before actually here, Atzmacha u'nochasai knuyin lecha. You are free and my money is given to you. He didn't write all of it together. He just said, I'm giving you all my money. And then he leaves something out. Rashi says the moment he leaves something out, it looks like that he's not really serious with giving everything away over here, and he's not really serious necessarily. It's possible that he's not really serious with freeing the slave altogether. The moment he leaves something out, that shows that he really wants to keep for himself. And therefore, we actually go a step further and we say that when he wrote this entire document to the Eved, it doesn't really do anything. He was just trying to flatter the Eved, Rashi says, to show him how much he loves him. I'm ready to give you everything, but in reality, he's not giving him anything. The fact that he didn't specify in the shtar that he's freeing him, you could say either he's flattering him or he's just teasing him in a way. Correct. So he doesn't get anything. Moment is one, he's leaving something for himself. That's a sign. He's megala that he really wants to keep everything for himself. That's the Tanakama here. The Gemara will soon say, who is this Tanakama? This is Rab Meir. Shtam Mishnah Rab Meir. Rab Shimon Rab Shimon argues with this. And as we'll see here, Rab Shimon argues with 2 points. La'olam hu ben chayrin. This person, this Eved that is, will always be freed here with this kind of a document where it says in the document that I'm giving you all my possessions, which includes the freedom of the Eved himself. He will always go free, including in a case where the master says he wants to leave something for himself. Rav Shimon disagrees with this svara that the moment he leaves something for himself, it shows that he's not serious. No, what we say is, look, if he wanted to keep something for himself, that he keeps for himself, but the rest, the Eved receives and he goes free. Unless the Eved, the master that is, writes into the document, Kol nochasai nusunin leploini avdi, all of my possessions are given to this individual, this Eved, but he writes into the shtar, Chutz me'echad miribuy shebehen, besides 1 of 10,000 of my possessions, I'm not giving away. In other words, he's saying that he wants to keep something for himself, and he doesn't specify what it is he wants to keep for himself. So here, in this case, when he says he wants to keep something for himself and he doesn't specify what it is he wants to keep for himself, in such a case we say, well, it's possible that he wanted to keep the Eved for himself. So Rashi explains, even though the Eved may be worth much more than this 1 of 10,000, so it doesn't seem like he wants to keep the Eved for himself, but nevertheless, maybe it does refer to the Eved. Maybe the Eved is not chashuv in his eyes, and the whole value of the Eved is like 1 of 10,000, and he's basically saying, I'm keeping the Eved for myself. So if he's keeping the Eved for himself, what does that basically mean? That this Eved gets nothing. If he's owned by his master, so then he can't own any of the master's possessions, so he ends up getting nothing. That's what Rab Shimon says. Okay, but now Rashi adds to this, and as the Mefarshim explain, Rab Shimon, when he begins speaking here, the lashon he uses is la'olam hu ben chayrin. He's always going to be a ben chayrin. Why does Rab Shimon add these words la'olam hu ben chayrin? What Rab Shimon is saying is, no matter what, no matter how, and in what case the master leaves something over in this shtar, he's saying that he wants to leave something for himself, it doesn't matter. The Eved himself will be free. So therefore Rashi says, from this, the Gemara is being medayik, that this even includes in a case where the Eved will go free, but he's not going to get any possessions of his master. What's that case? If the master is going to write into the shtar, I'm giving you all my nechasim, which would mean that he gets everything and he himself is free. But then he writes, besides 1 piece of land. Rashi says, besides 1 kur karka. 1 piece of land I'm not giving you. And he doesn't specify which piece of land he's not giving him. So basically now, if the Eved is going to want to go and take any piece of land for himself, the master is going to say, no, not this one, this is mine, this is mine. So he can't really get anything. Which basically means when a master writes such a kind of a shtar, I'm giving you all my possessions besides 1 piece, 1 thing, he's basically showing that the words kol nochasai are meaningless. This doesn't mean anything. Now, if that's the case, if the term kol nochasai is basically meaningless, shouldn't that mean that he also shouldn't go free? Right. It was never specified in this shtar that he's freed. The only reason why he was freed is because he's included in kol nochasai. He's also part of all the nechasim of the master. But the moment the line of kol nochasai that I'm giving you all my possessions is basically meaningless because he's saying I want to leave something for myself and we don't know what that is, so he can't get anything, shouldn't that mean that the master is not free either? So Rashi says this is part of the Eved, that is, shouldn't be free either. So Rashi says this is part of the chiddush of Rab Shimon when he says la'olam hu ben chayrin, that even in this case he will be free, and we're basically going to split the shtar. It's like 2 different stories as far as the translation of the words kol nochasai, the meaning of the words kol nochasai, that it refers to his possessions. So for that we say the words kol nochasai are totally meaningless, because any possession he wants to take, he can't take anything. But as far as the fact that the words kol nochasai refers to him, that it's a document of freedom for him, for that we say it is. Kol nochasai means that he's totally free. So here we see that Rab Shimon says this idea of palginon dibura. And from the fact that Rab Shimon says, La'olam hu ben chayrin, we understand that Rab Meir, which is the Tanakama, disagrees with this. Even though, in the words of Rab Meir and the Tanakama, you don't clearly see that he disagrees with this, because he never specified such a kind of a case. And the truth is, even in the words of Rab Shimon, this case of Pagina di Buddha is not specified, but this is all based on this diuk of the word La'olam hu ben chayrin, that we understand that Rab Shimon is arguing on Rab Meir 2 points. Number one, the point before that I mentioned, when a person leaves something over, should we say that that's a sign he wants to leave everything over? And the other point, in a case where he leaves something over that's unspecified, and therefore you're going to be forced to split the shtar to say that the money you get nothing, but the freedom you do become free. And at that point as well, Rab Meir disagrees with. Rab Shimon goes like Rava, exactly. So this is what Rav Ada bar Masna is saying, that the source of Rava that said you could take one document and split the one line into the document into two, the source is Rab Shimon. Now this, Rav Ada bar Masna continues and asks, but we don't paskin like Rab Shimon. Even though Rab Yesi praised the halacha that Rab Shimon said, but nevertheless, halacha ke Rab Meir, we still paskin like Rab Meir. The Tanya, as we learned in the Braisa, kishenemru dvarim lefnei Rab Yesi, when this halacha was said in front of Rab Yesi, kara olav hamikra zeh. Rab Yesi read on this big chiddush here, this halacha of Pagina di Buddha, the following pasuk: Sfasayim yishak meishiv dvarim nechaychim. The lips should kiss one that says such correct words, such beautiful words. Okay, so but nevertheless, though, as the Gemara said, we don't paskin like Rab Shimon. So the question of Rav Ada bar Masna and Rava is, how could you apply this halacha of Pagin and Dibura, which Rab Meir, the Tanakama, disagrees with? But now the Gemara asks, we're bringing here from Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman says we don't paskin. We don't hold like Rab Shimon that says Pagin and Dibura. We paskin like the Tanakama that does not hold of Pagin and Dibura. But is that true? Here the Gemara brings another case. Omi Omer Rav Nachman Hachi, does Rav Nachman say that we don't paskin like Rab Shimon? But for Omer Rav Yosef bar Minyaimi, Omer Rav Nachman, Rav Yosef bar Minyaimi as well said in the name of Rav Nachman, another case where we see that he does hold of this idea of Pagin and Dibura. And here's another case where we see that we can take one document and split it. On one hand, we accept the words of the document, on the other hand, we don't. When is that? Shchiv mira shekosav kol mechosav lavtai. Shchiv mira is a person that's on his deathbed and he's about to pass away, and he writes that he's giving all of his possessions to his slave. The same case that we're talking about until here. He's giving everything away to him. Now, but what happened? Va'amat. He recovered. He survived and he got up. He's healthy now. Chayzer ben achasim. So regarding all the monies and possessions that he said he's giving to his slave, he can retract from that. This is the halacha by a matana of a shchiv mira. Shchiv mira that gives the gift, so he has the ability to retract from this if he becomes healthy again. So from all of his possessions that he said he's giving, because he recovered, he can retract from that. But nevertheless, he cannot retract from the gift that he gave the Eved, which is his own freedom. And the Braisa explains, or Rav Nachman that is, explains, he can retract from the gift that he's giving all the monies and possessions. The reason is because this is the rule. Matna shchiv mirahu. This is a gift of a person that's on his deathbed. And then if you recover, you can retract from that. But regarding the freedom of the Eved himself, that you can't retract from. And the reason is, because in this time period, when he had this document in his hand that says that I'm free, my master gave me all of his possessions, which includes myself. So there's a name of him being a ben chayrin that's already on him, which means that people look at him and say, oh, he's free, and free for an Eved means that he becomes a Yid. He becomes a Yid. Rashi says he has the Kedusha of a Yid, Kitrei Hashem, and he's chayav in mitzvahs. So once he has that name of being a Yid, so Chazal said we can't have him go back to being in the status of an Eved. So here is a example where we see it's one document, and this Shchiv Mera wrote in the document, I'm giving you all my possessions, but as far as the possessions are concerned, the document is null and void, because the master that recovered retracts from this. But as far as the freedom of the Eved is concerned, the document is valid and he is free. So we take one document and we sort of split it. We split the story of this document into half. So over here I see that Rav Nachman does hold of Palgina Dibura. So the question is, Does Rav Nachman hold that we paskin like Rav Meir that does not hold of Pagina Dibura? Or does Rav Nachman hold like he says in this story that we do say Pagina Dibura? So the Gemara says, Elo Omar Ravashi, so therefore Ravashi says that really when it comes to the Mishnah that we quoted before, this machlokes of Rav Meir and Rav Shimon, Rav Meir does not disagree with the concept of Pagina Dibura. Hassam, over there, Rab Meir that says when a person writes, he's giving all his nechasim to an eved, and over there the case was he's leaving out something. He's leaving out something for himself. Now, when the master leaves out something for himself, he could leave out something for himself which is specified, or he could leave out something for himself which is not specified. So before, the Gemara thought that in a case where the master leaves out something which is not specified, so we're going to have to apply the halacha of Palgin and Dibura. As far as the possessions are concerned, the Eved can get nothing because it's not specified what he's leaving out for himself. As far as his own freedom, he will become free. And on that, Rab Meir argued, Rab Meir does not hold of Pagina Dibura. And therefore, Rab Meir says that he will not go free either. He'll get nothing and he will not go free. But now Rav Ashi says that's not the reason for Rab Meir. The reason why Rab Meir, the Tanakama, says that he will not go free is a different reason. Mishum delav krois gittehu, because it's not fully cutting him off from his master the way it works with a get. That a woman that receives a get from her husband, that has to fully be clear that it's cutting her off from her husband. A shtar that an eved receives to free him also has to be clear that it's cutting him off of his master, and it's not clear enough. Now she explains what this means is, the pasuk says by a get, sefer krisos, it has to be a document that's clearly cutting you off of your master. And the shtar, shichrur, of an eved, the shtar, the document that frees an eved, also has to be clear that it's freeing him. And therefore over here, the moment the master leaves something out, whether it's specified, whether it's not specified, what he is leaving out. Even in a case where it's specified. So once it's specified, you can argue and say, well, if so, it's pretty clear what he means to leave out, and he, at the same time, he wants him to be free. But nevertheless, because, as Rashi brought before, there is a svara to say that the moment he's leaving something out, he means to leave out the Eved as well. It's not 100%, the freedom of the Eved is not 100% clear. If the freedom of the Eved is not 100% clear in this document, the Eved does not go free. So the point over here is, the reason why Rab Meir holds that this Eved does not go free has nothing to do with the fact that he disagrees with this idea of taking this one document and splitting it. That he won't get the possessions, the money, but he will get his own freedom. That's not the point. Rab Meir agrees that you can split a shtar. Over here, there's another problem. A shtar written for the freedom of the Eved has to be 100% clear. There shouldn't even be 0.5% of thinking that maybe the Eved is not free. The moment he leaves something out in any way, it's not a clear document, and therefore he doesn't go free. That's in this case. But in the other cases, though, that we brought in the Gemara before, where there's nothing being left out, the case that Abaye and Rava argued before regarding Pagina Dibura, when you wrote Kol Nachasai Kenuyim Lacha, regarding B'fanei Nichtav B'fanei Nechtam, that he's believed regarding his own freedom, and he's not believed regarding the possessions. Or this case over here by the Shchiv Mirah, where we said that the Shchiv Mirah that recovers, so he can retract from the money that he gives, but he can't retract from the freedom. Over here, there's no issue of anything being left out. So over here, we apply the rule of Palkina Dibura, that the money, the possessions, he does not get anything, but his own freedom he does get, even though it's all one shtar, but we split it as if it's two different shtaras. The Gemara now goes back to the Mishnah. It said in the Mishnah, Yeshal of Eiridin, Yiskayim B'chaismav. The Mishnah there, in the beginning of the Masechta, concluded regarding a get that's being brought in Eretz Yisrael, and the Shliach does not have to testify that this get is kosher, that the signatures are authentic. He brings the get and gives it to the Isha. But now the question is, what happens if there's a challenge on the kashrus of this get? So now you're going to be forced to bring Eidim, to bring witnesses to verify the signatures on this get. So frek the Gemara, Irer Kama. The challenge that there is on this get, how many? Who exactly is challenging the kashrus of this get? If you'll say that there's just one person coming forward and challenging the kashrus of this get, but why are we even paying attention to him? Rabbi Yochanan said, everybody agrees, if there's a challenge to a get or to a shtar, such a challenge is not paid attention to unless it's two eidim. One person is not believed at all to challenge a document with signatures on it. Ve'ela irir trei. So we must say that over here, when it says in the Mishnah that there's someone challenging the get, it actually means there are two witnesses that are challenging the kashrus of the get. If so, frek the Gemara, trei utreininu. So then this would be 2 against 2. Even if you get witnesses to verify this shtar, it's 2 against 2. So how will that help to validate this get? My chaz is the samchas ahani. Why would you rely on the 2 that would validate this get? Smoich ahani. You could rely on the other 2 that are invalidating the get. Hello, answers the Gemara. What the Mishnah meant when it says im yesh olav oidirin, it means arar the baal. It's the husband himself that comes and challenges the kashrus of the get. Even though Rabbi Yochanan said that one person can challenge the kashrus of the get, but if it's the husband himself, the Baal Dova, he wrote this get and he comes and says that the get is possible, his challenge we will have to take into account, and you'll have to validate the get in order to take away his challenge to the get. Continuing in the next Mishnah, the halachis of a person bringing the get from overseas, from outside Eretz Yisrael, the halacha that the shliach has to testify that the get was written and signed in front of him. If the person delivered, the shliach delivered the get from Medina Sayyam. We had this Mishnah quoted before. And he can't testify that it was written and signed in front of him. So what happens? So in order to verify this get, so if you have edim, so you have to verify it, and then it's good. You can give the isha the get. Sagt the Mishnah weiter, another halacha here. Echad Gittin noshim ve'echad shechrurei avodim. Both a get that's given for an isha for her divorce, or a shichrur for an eved, as we were learning just now about the way a eved is freed is by giving him a document that frees him. Shavu l'moilech u'lemevi. The same halacha that if it's delivered from chutz la'aretz, so you have to, the shliach has to testify before whether moilech, whether it's being brought from Eretz Yisrael to chutz la'aretz, or mevi, if it's being brought to Eretz Yisrael, you have to testify about the kashrus of this document. And v'zu achas min hadrachim sheshavu Gittin noshim l'shechrurei avodim. This is one of the ways that a get for a woman and the shtar, the document to free an eved, are the same. We'll see in the Gemara there's other ways that they're the same as well. There's a gzeira shava. They're compared. You learn out law. Because of law sefer krisis, and it also says by an eved, it also says the term law, chufsha loy nitten law. So we compare the two. Whatever halachas apply to writing a get for a isha also applies to a shtar shikhr of an eved. Sagt the Gemara, what does it mean when it says that a shliach delivers a get and he cannot testify that it was written and signed in front of him? If you'll say cheresh, that we refer to a person, a shliach that's a deaf mute, that can't be. Cheresh parisuya gitu is a cheresh, an individual that can even be a shliach to deliver a get. Vatnan, we learned in the Mishnah, kol ksherim lahavi es a get. Everybody is kosher to bring a get. Chutz mi cheresh shaita v'katan, a cheresh or a shaita, mentally deranged, or a katan, he's under bar mitzvah, so he doesn't have the das to be a shliach to deliver a get. So that can't be what our Mishnah is talking about. Rav Yosef, so Rav Yosef says, Hacha b'maya skinon. What does it mean that it says that he cannot deliver the get? This shliach, we got the get when he was fully sane and he had his senses with him. So he was able to deliver the get, and he even was able to give it to the isha. But then, he didn't get a chance to testify that it was written and signed in front of him, and at that moment, he became a cheresh, he became deaf mute, or he lost his mind, or something happened, and he can't testify anymore. What? We had this in the Gemara before. It's not shchiach, true. Yeah, that's what. Yeah, we had this in the Gemara before on Daf Hey, I think.
But if he wasn't a cheresh, and he just wasn't there by the time, by the whole thing, and just wants to now kind of get with it, but he didn't, that wouldn't work then.
It would work as well, but that's not the chiddush of this Mishnah. There's a discussion before about this. Tosfos talks about that. Why can't we just simply say that he didn't see the get in the first place? Tosfos says it's not mashma the lashon of the Mishnah that way, but in that case, if you just verify it, it would be fine. The next part of the Mishnah, it said, whether it's a get for a woman or a document to redeem or to free an eved, the same halacha applies. We learned in the Braisa, there are 3 different halachas, that a get for an isha is the same to the shtar shichrur of an eved. They are the same with this halacha when you deliver a get from or to Eretz Yisrael. The shliach has to testify b'fana nichta, b'fana nechtam. Another halacha. Now these halachas the Gemara is going to bring up over here are going to be explained later on in the Mishnayos and the Gemara and the Hemshech of the next few blot. But here the Gemara brings a brayso that brings it bekitzer. V'chol get sheyesh all of 8 kuti. Any get that has on it, any get really means any document, any kind of shtar that has on it a witness signed, and the aid is a kuti. A kuti are those people that came in the time of the end of the first Beis HaMikdash from this place called Kuta, and they became Gittin, but it's not clear if their Gaitis was a proper Gaitis or not. Okay, so these, they lived in Shemron, right? So these Kutim, if you have an 8 kuti that's signed on the get, on any document that is, puzzle. The shtar is puzzle. It's not, his signature is worthless. Chutz mi Gittin noshim v'shechrurei avodim. Besides a get or a shtar shikhr for an eved, the signature of a kuti is reliable. And the Gemara later will explain this. A third halacha, any document that is written by a non-Jewish court, even though the ones that are signing this document are also Goyim that are signing it. These are documents that are valid and are accepted and can be used for any money transactions. Besides, for a get or for the freedom for a shtar for an eved, if it's made up by a goyish court and it's signed by a goy, it can't be used at all. So Rashi here explains that we know that the goyim have to set up judges as well. It's one of the Sheva mitzvahs b'nei Noach, and we know also the concept of dina de malchus dina, that the laws that you have in a court is valid al pitayra. So therefore, when it comes to money transactions, you buy a house, you sell a house, or any other transaction, we use any documents, any legal documents that there are, and they are valid al pi halacha to prove whether you bought or sold or whatever it is. But when it comes to a get or to free an eved, over here it's a different story. This is a marriage or an ownership of an eved, which is the goyim don't have no shaykhs to this kind of halacha at all. They're not in the Torah of Gittin and Kiddushin. So therefore, a signature of a goy or from a goyish court cannot be used at all. Now the Brisa continues and says, "U'kedivrei Rab Meir barba." Rab Meir says there's actually a fourth halacha where a get and a shtar shikhr of an eved have a similarity. And that is, ha'oimet ten getz el ishti. A person tells a shliach, go and deliver this get for my wife. Or a shtar shikhr zeh la'avdi. Go and deliver this shtar for my wife. Now, if the husband or the master is appointing this person to deliver the get, so he didn't tell him that, he said deliver it, which means that the get should not take effect, the divorce that is, should not take effect, or the freedom of the eved should not take effect until his wife or the eved receives this document, right? So therefore says Rab Meir, Rotza lachza b'shneihem yachzar. So if the master or the husband wants to retract of both of these before it reaches the hands of the isha or of the eved, so then he can retract from this because the divorce or the freedom did not take effect yet. Divrei Rab Meir, this is the opinion of Rab Meir. So Rashi explains, what's the chiddush of Rab Meir here? There's a concept that we have in the Gemara, and the Gemara later in the Masechta will talk about it as well, that's called Zachin La'adam Shaloi B'Fonav. You can be Zayche in something for somebody, even without him ever asking or appointing you to do so. If it's something which is for his benefit, he doesn't have to appoint you to be his shliach to be Zayche in it for him, but if it's something for his benefit, you can be Zayche in it for him automatically. Right? So if, let's say, being Zayche in a get for an Isha is beneficial for her. So even if the Isha did not appoint this Shliach to receive this get for her, but the moment you get that get, or you receive that get from the husband, you can be Zayche in it for the woman, even before it comes to her hands, because it's a schus for her. If that would be the case, then the moment the husband gives this get to this Shliach, he can't retract from this anymore, because the shliach could say, I was zoiche in this get for your wife, because I'm doing it for her benefit, and now I was zoiche in it for her, and that's it, she's divorced. But what Rab Meir is saying is that both when it comes to the get of an isha and when it comes to the shikhr of an eved, they both are not considered to be a schus for them. It's not a schus for a woman to be divorced. It's not a schus for an eved. It's not a benefit for an eved to be freed. It's a loss for them. And if it's a loss for them, the divorce or the freedom does not take effect until it reaches to their hands. And therefore, in both cases, the husband or the master could retract from this get or this shtar shikhr until it reaches to their hands. That's the comparison that Meir says. The Tanna Kama, though, disagrees with this. The Tanna Kama says that by an Eved, we say that he can't retract from by an Eved, he can't retract from this because it is a schus for the Eved to be free. The Eved is happy to be free, and therefore, once you got it for him, even without asking him, it's too late. He can't retract from this.
Isn't the question who the shliach is? Is the shliach from the isha or the shliach?
No, that's the whole point. The shliach was appointed by the husband or by the master, not by the isha or the eved. But nevertheless, if it was a zechus for the isha or the eved, even without being appointed by the isha and the eved, you could automatically be zeicha for them. What Rav Meir is saying is that's the concept of zachin la'adam shalei b'fanav. But what Rav Meir is saying is it's not a zechus for them to be divorced or freed is a loss. So therefore, in both cases, you can't be zeicha in it for them without their permission, and therefore the master or the husband could retract from this before it reaches to their hands. So we on this. So we have over here the first part of the Braisa, which is the Rabbanon. So it's understood according to the Rabbanon, minyana, the number. Right, the Braisa starts off with a number. That there's three ways that a eved and the shtar of an eved and the get of an isha are the same. So the number, why is it saying it? Lemute, it's coming to exclude Had Rav Meir. What Rav Meir said, that there's a fourth way that they're the same, and the Tanna Kam is coming to say only three. But Rav Meir, minyana lemute mai. When he said that they're similar in four ways, why is he giving a number? What is the number coming to exclude? Is there anything else that I would think that they're the same? Says the Gemara, yes, lemute, it's coming to exclude the following. Hadetani, we learned in the Braisa, Eidim she'ein yoidim lachtem. What happens if the only witnesses available to sign the document are Eidim that don't know how to sign? They don't know how to write, they don't know how to sign their name. So what do? Mekaden lahem niyar chalak. What you do is, so Rashi's pshat in this Gemara is, you sort of make a sign for them on the paper. You scratch into the paper the shape of the letters of the signature of their name, and then a mamalim esakram diy, and then these witnesses can come and sort of, all right, they trace it and they fill it in with ink, and that's their signatures. Even though this is obviously not a regular proper signature, but nevertheless, the Tanakama here says that you can use this as a signature for any document. On this, Rav Shimon Gamliel says, no, usually you can't. When are we so lenient to accept such a kind of a signature? Only when it comes for a get for an isha. And Rashi explains the reason is because by a get for an isha, Chacham instituted to use this type of signature because she shouldn't turn to be an aguna. She shouldn't end up being stuck. What happens if her husband is running out of town or he's leaving and he's going to go overseas? And if you're not going to finish this get right now, she may end up not without a get and she'll be stuck. So by a get isha, Chacham were lenient to allow such a signature. Al shechruri avodim, when it comes to freeing a slave with a document, or v'sharkol shtaris, for that matter, any other kind of a document, we can't use this kind of signature. Im yoidim likreis v'lachtaim, if the Eidim know how to read what it says in the document, and they know how to sign their name, chaisman, they can sign, v'im lav, and chaisman. Otherwise, they don't sign at all. Okay, so here, according to Rav Shimon Gamliel, this is another case where you may have thought that we compare a shtar shichrer to a get isha, that we should be lenient by both of them, similar, that you could accept this kind of signature. And that's what Rav Meir is saying with the number 4, to say that no, we say like Rav Shimon Gamliel, that this is a leniency only by a get and not by a shtar. And I hear the Gemara clarifies pshat in this braise, and what Rav Shimon ben Gamliel just said, fragt the Gemara, kriye man d'chashmei, having the ability to read what it says in the document, whoever mentioned this. The Braisa starts off talking about Eidim that don't know how to sign. It doesn't say that they don't know how to read Hebrew. Why are we all of a sudden mentioning that they don't know how to read? It says the Gemara, you're right, there's something missing here in this Braisa. This is how it has to say. Eidim she'en yoidim likrais, Eidim that don't know how to read what it says in the document, kairin lifneim. We read what it says in the document in front of them. And the chaisman, and they can sign it. Those that don't know how to sign, as we said, we allow them to trace what we have already etched into the paper. They can trace their signature.
The get is for the benefit of Isha.
It's well in some cases. In some cases, yeah. If the husband's going out of town, Rashi actually brings another case. If the husband's about to die, we don't want her to become stuck with a yavam, a yibum. Yeah, some cases. Frag the Gemara, are there no other halachas that we compare the shtar to free an eved to the get of an isha? But for ha'ike, we have additional halachas. A person says, Tnu get zelishti, give this get for my wife, or shtar shichr zel avdi, or give this shtar to free my eved umeis, and this person passes away. Says the Braisa lo yitnu la'achamisa. So you can't give a get or a shtar shichror after he passes away. Because there's no get or there's no shichror after he passes away. Once he passes away, Rashi says, so the Isha is, so there's nobody here to divorce. The husband's not alive anymore. And the Eved that wants to be freed, he's not owned by the master anymore. The children inherited him. It's not his anymore to free. So you can't give this after he passes away. And Rashi here adds, that's even if he already gave this get or the shtar to the shliach. Still, it did not take effect in his lifetime. So after he passes away, you don't give it to the Isha anymore. Now, but if a person says Tnu mana leplaini, give money, a certain amount of money to this person, umeis, and he passes away, yitnu lachamisa. So then that you give after he passes away. This is similar to the halacha that we learned before about the halacha of a shchivmira. A person on his deathbed says give a gift, so after he passes away, you have to fulfill what he says, and you give it. So what do we see over here? That regarding any other document of money that he says he wants to give, that you don't give. But over here, when it comes to a get and a shtar shichror, they have a similarity that it can't be given after he passes away. Why doesn't the Braisa mention this similarity between a get and a shtar shichror? That is, answers the Gemara, kikutani milse the lesse b'shtaris. The Braisa here is only mentioning something that we don't have by other shtaris. Milse the isa b'shtaris loikatani. But if this is a halacha that applies by other documents as well, that the Braisa does not mention. What does this mean? So the Gemara explains, the Sholach Ravin Mishmei de Rabavo, Ravin sent the halacha in the name of Rabavo, have a Yedin, Sheshalach Rabalaza Legaila Mishum Rabbeinu. Rabalaza sent into Galus in the name of Rabbeinu, which usually refers to Rav, and he said the following halacha, Shchiv Mirasha Amar Kisvu Utnu Mana Uplaini Umeis. A Shchiv is on his deathbed, and he says, write a document, and over there you're writing that what? That you're giving a mana to this person, and then he passes away. Umeis, he passed away. Ein kaisvin v'noisnen. You do not write this document after you pass. You don't write the document and give this person the right to collect this money. Why? Because if he says write it, so perhaps he didn't want that this person should receive this money only with a document. You can't write a shtar for a person after he passes away because he's not alive anymore. It's not his anymore. In other words, what he's saying over here is a person that's on his deathbed and is giving a gift and just says, give a gift to this person, after he passes away, you have to give it. But if he says, write a document and give it to him, then we say that there's no shtar achramisa. So therefore, the Braisa here does not say the similarity between a get isha and the shtar shikhr of an eved, that both can't be given after he passes away, because the same halacha applies to all shtaris. But for ha'ikil lishma, there's other halachas that a shtar shikhr and a get isha are the same, and that's the halacha of lishma. The halacha that both of them have to be written l'shma for the sake of the isha or for the sake of the eved. So why doesn't it mention that similarity? I mentioned before, there's exeter shavu, law, that the same halacha applies. So the Gemara says, now bishloim rabba, going back now to the halacha of b'fanei nichtav, b'fanei nechtam. So now, according to Rabba, what did Rabba say? Why does there's a shliach that delivers a get from chutzlah that's have to testify b'fanei nichtav, b'fanei nechtam? Because we're concerned that it may have been written shaloi lishma. So according to Rabba, we could say hainu meilach umevi. When it says in the Braisa that we compare the get and the shtar shichr of an eved regarding saying b'fanei nichtav, b'fanei nechtam, so then that includes the halacha of lishma. But according to Rava Kasha, this halacha of testifying b'fanei nichtav, b'fanei nechtam has nothing to do with lishma. So why do we not mention the halacha of lishma that's similar by both of them? V'su, another question is, Bein l'Rava, according to both of their opinions, ha'ikeh mechuber. There's the halacha of mechuber. A get or a shtar shikhr of eved may not be written on a document or on any material that's still attached to the ground. So why doesn't it mention that similarity? Answers the Gemara, because kikatani psula de rabbanan. All the things that the Braisa here mentions are all things that are pasal mid rabbanan. The ayraisa loikatani. Psulim that are minat Torah, which is the lishma and mechuber, those similarities between a get and a shtar shichror, which are minat Torah, that it doesn't teach. Fragt the Gemara, no, it doesn't teach psulim minat Torah. V'ha erkois shalev dekachavim. The last case here that the Tanakama mentioned was the case where you had a get or a shtar shichr written up by a goyish court, and it said that both of them will not be kosher. The psula deiraisu, they're both pasal minat Torah v'katani. And the Braisa does mention this similarity between them, that they're both pasal. And says the Gemara, no, actually, the case that the Braisa brings is not a psul min ha-Torah. Even though it's written in a Goyish court with Goyish signatures. It's still not a case where the get and the shtar shikhr is pasul min ha-Torah. Why not? So here, before I read the Gemara inside, let me remind you what we learned earlier in the Masechta, that when it comes to a get, there's two options, two opinions, where the edim for this shtar or the get has to be. Either the signatures inside the get, that's what's called Eidei Chesime, or the Eidim that are there when you give the get to the Isha, Eidei Mesira, and you don't need signatures inside the get. This is a machlokes between Rab Meir and Rab Elazar. Says the Gemara, over here, what are we talking about? One second, where am I holding? And says the Gemara, Be'eidei Mesira. Over here, this Braisa is speaking about a get or shtar shikhr that was written in a Goyish court with Goyish signatures. So you may think that it's pasul min ha-Torah, but it's not, because we have the Eidei Mesira, the Eidim that are there when the get is being given to the Isha or being given to the Eved. Ukar Rabbi Elazar. And this Braisa follows Rabbi Elazar's opinion. The Amma Eidei Mesira Karti. The Eidim that we need for the kashrus of this get are not the signatures. It's the Eidim, it's the Eidim that are there when you give the get. So therefore, this is only a psul min ha-Rabbanan. Min ha-Torah, doesn't matter that there's Goyish signatures in the get. The main thing is you have the Eidim that are there when you gave the get. So Rashi explains, but midrabanan it's possible, because we're afraid that if you sign the get with Goyish signatures, you may come to then rely on the same Goyish signatures when you give the get to the Isha. But that's only a psul midrabanan. So we go back to the point here that the Gemara is saying that we're only teaching similarities of the get and the shtar shikhr by a psul midrabanan. Frag the Gemara, but v'ha midiktani sefer. But in the Seifa of the Mishnah, we'll see this later here in the next few Mishnahs here, it brings later on, Rab Shimon says, Af Elu Ksherin, that this is also kosher, by a get of a Isha and a Shikhr of an Eved that's written in a Goyish court with Goyish signatures, it's still going to be kosher. What's the pshat in Rab Shimon? How could Rab Shimon say that it's kosher? Rab Zera explained Rab Shimon's opinion. Yarad Rab Shimon l'shitasai Rab Elazar. Here Rab Shimon is basically telling us that he agrees to Rab Elazar, the Amma Eidem Mesira Karki, that it doesn't matter if it's has Goyish signatures, because the main thing is the signatures that you have, not signatures, sorry, the Eidim that you have when the get is being given to the Isha. So what does this mean? If Rab Shimon says that it's kosher because you have those Eidei Mesira, the cloud of Tanakama is Salvaloi. So it seems like the Tanakama holds that you don't have the Eidei Mesira. It seems like the Tanakama holds like Rab Meir, that min ha-Torah you must have the signatures in the get. And since it's Goyish signatures, therefore it's going to be pasul. So if so, it comes out that this Braisa is mentioning a case which is pasul min ha-Torah, because we're going according to the opinion of Rab Meir that you must have Yiddish signatures, proper signatures in the get itself. Says the Gemara, not necessarily. We can say that both the Tanakama and Rab Shimon, they both agree that the Eidei Mesira are the main Eidus of the get. And the signatures in the get, which are Goyim, you don't even need those signatures min ha-Torah. But Ikke Beinayu Shemus Muvhakin. The machlokes here between the Tanakama and Rab Shimon is when you have Goyish signatures in a get, which are clearly Goyish signatures. Meaning, in a case where you have signatures in a get, and the signatures of these names of Goyim, it's not clear whether they're Yidden or Goyim. So then there's definitely, everybody will agree that there's a concern that you may end up using these same Eidim to be as Eidim for the Mesira. But in a case where you have the signatures of these Goyim in the get, and their Shemus Muvhakin, it's clear that they're Goyish signatures. Over here, we're not afraid that you're going to confuse and use them also for the Mesira of the get, because it's clear that they're Goyish signatures. So basically what the Gemara is saying over here is that everybody agrees to Rabbi Elazar. You don't need the signatures in the get min ha-Torah, but the machlokes between the Tanakama and Rab Shimon is regarding this case of Shemus Muvhakim. So at this point, the Gemara sticks to the point that it's saying that the Braisa here that's comparing a get to a shtar shikhr is only regarding halachas midrabanan, not regarding halachas min ha-Torah.